There's over 250 businesses in Colne, 22,557 people live there, and there's no bank. It's just incredible. And there's people say, well, you can get train services and all sorts of buses, but the train ends at Colne. It doesn't go any further. So now Santander just shut down. The next bank is 14.5 miles away. The one in Burnley the other way, 7.4 miles away. What happens to people who can't get there?
It would be the perfect place then for one of these banking hubs, these kind of pop-up facilities where the banks share a space and different banks on different days, so at least there's somewhere to go. Is that happening?
The problem with banking hubs, as you mentioned, there's only been 150. There's supposed to be hundreds already. There's only been 150. That's 37.5 banking hubs each year that's been built in the last 4 years. The first one opened in Scotland. Now, the problem with that is, if you've only got one in sporadic areas all over the country, every bank's trying to use it. Now, Colne has asked for that to be a banking hub, and they've turned it down, John. They don't want one there, they said.
Why?
Well, you've got 54 banks a month closing, you've only got 37 hubs a year opening, and then Colne Hub, they've applied for it to the Link Services, and Link Services said, we're not going to put one in Colne.
It's so frustrating, isn't it? Who are the people who are affected most by this?
Well, I mean, it's people, it's businesses, but once you start shutting the banks down, once there's no banking hubs, once there's no access to money, the poorest and the most vulnerable always suffer the most. Now, when a bank shuts, you'll find lots of other services start to shut down around it. It's like a beating heart of the town. Like, my wife used to go and do the banking for the business each week. She'd go into the bank and then go across to the butcher's to get the meat for the week, and then up to the market to get the veg for the week. Well, she's not doing that now. There's no bank there.
Looking at these figures, I mean, the banks say that like 75–80% of us now are doing everything online or on the phone, and that's only going to increase. I guess you can understand that when they're facing big rents, that they need to save money, that they're going to think, look, if that's the future, that's just what we're going to have to go with.
Do you know
I'm playing devil's advocate here. I know you're going to disagree.
I mean, banks need to remember why they're there in the first place. In 2008, we bailed them out. In COVID, we bailed them out. People who rob banks go to prison, but banks who rob people get paid bonuses. They win either way. They buy derivatives, they give people next to no interest, they make fortunes, they get paid fortunes. If it goes wrong, the taxpayer bails them out. But do you know what the banking hub said when I went to them and said, why can't you put one there? Well, we're struggling to find a place to put it. And I'm saying, look at all the empty banks. There's plenty of banks there that you could put it inside.
And all the other empty premises. I mean, everybody tells us every day, we all see our high streets with loads of empty shops. You could potentially, but it doesn't need huge security, does it?
No, well, that's the thing. They don't actually have a cash drawer anymore.
Right.
They don't have a printer in the hub. You go into a hub, they don't have a printer, they don't have a cash... the only way you can get cash out of a hub is a cash machine outside. The bank is only there one day a week, like Lloyd's. Lady in Barnoldswick told me about that yesterday, Jennifer. And she said, look, I tried to get my statement printed, they're not going to do it. I tried to get some cash, there's no cash in the drawer. What are they there for? And Lloyd's Bank have stopped all the mobile banks across the country. If we're not careful, it's going to be the rise and rise of the loan shark again, because people need access to money. 1.5 million people use cash every single day. How is Granny going to get her pension? How's she going to get her money? Post offices, they're going to close 115 of them. There's only 250 to 300 credit unions left. If we don't do something now, we're going to really suffer.
So what's the answer, Dave?
The answer is community banks run by the community to benefit the community rather than the bonus culture. I'm working very closely with the credit unions because I think they're amazing. We need somewhere for somebody to go to get advice against a scam or whatever. My mum's 78 years old and she's got the onset of dementia. She's ferociously protective. She wants to do her own banking. She goes to the bank and all it is just an empty shop now. What happens to people in the 70s, 60s, 80s who are not tech savvy? There's lots of people that are tech savvy and we do need big banks. But we also need to remember why banks were there in the first place, to serve the people. That's how they made the money in the first place.
And the stories you hear, how isolating is it for people who don't have any face-to-face option and don't do internet and who are left with nowhere to go, literally?
Well, I've got people who write to me all the time, and I've got one in particular that went into a pub, borrowed a few £100 off what he thought was somebody he could trust. That ended up becoming a loan shark. They ended up paying fortunes in interest. Now, I went after the payday loan industry with my rata man David H, and they were charging 5,500% was Wonga. Them sorts of companies will come back if we shut the banks down. People need somewhere to go. I've lent money to my local post office to make things so they can stay open, because post offices, that's another one, you need post offices. But the problem is the banks say, well, the post offices are going to take over from where the banks are. Post offices, John, sell stamps, birthday cards and balloons. They don't know about mortgages and finances and loans, and they're really terrified, some of them, about what they're going to do, because they're going to be left behind to sweep up the mess.
And there's a queue, and you need time and space to do that confidentially. Yeah, it's really hard. Dave, thank you so much for coming in. It's always good to hear your opinion, as ever.
Before we let Dave go, we have to ask you the question of the morning, which is, have you ever made a cup of tea in a microwave?